Think you know Scotland?
Think again.
Think technology. Think tech companies all over Scotland changing the game and reshaping the future. Then think of a sector growing fast. A country that is forward-thinking in everything it does. Think satellite technology tackling climate change. Think turning light into wireless data. Think the data capital of Europe. Think data science and data helping to tackle childhood obesity. Think a globally recognised top fintech hub that's the driving force behind inclusive and ethical finance and transforming the future. Think world firsts. Think using our thinking to change people's lives and the world. Think artificial intelligence helping doctors to monitor patients' health on and off hospital wards.
UK's first spaceport is set to launch in the early 2020s, making Scotland the only location in Europe with end-to-end launch capabilities.
There's a better than even's chance the next billion-dollar startup to come out of Edinburgh is currently a tenant in Codebase.
Think startups, think scale-ups, think the next big thing, think inventions changing the world, think world-leading research and the most innovative thinkers working with you. Think networks of talent and networks to support you. Now think of your business, your future, your opportunities. Think different. Think Scotland. Scotland is now.
Good morning. And on behalf of Scottish Development International, Scotland's investment promotion agency, welcome to our latest capital investment webinar, which will profile the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation District Scotland, or AMIDS for short. My name is Simon Parsons and I will be your chair for this webinar. We would encourage you to ask questions to make this session as interactive as possible. Please use the Q&A facility and we will try to cover as many of these as we can during this session. Now, before we meet our panel for today, it is my pleasure to introduce Ivan McKee, MSP, Minister for Trade, Investment and Innovation, who will, amongst other matters, highlight the importance of attracting private capital investment to Scotland as part of an investment-led recovery. Mr. McKee will also be pleased to answer any questions before he leaves the webinar. Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much, Simon, and it's great to see that introductory video that talks so much to Scotland's capabilities. I'd just like to take a few minutes to talk to you about a lot of the work that the Scottish Government is doing around about trade and investment and the plans that we've got coming to fruition now and in the future in this hugely important area. I also to talk a wee bit about AMIDS, although you'll hear a lot more on the detail of that from the other speakers. I think there's been a recognition over the last few years in the Scottish Government that we needed to further internationalise our economy and position ourselves to be able to export more and to attract more inward investment into some excellent opportunities in Scotland. And I was given this role just over 2 years ago to kind of lead that charge, if you like. And we've made great progress over that time. We've got a really clear focus on our export potential despite the current international headwinds in that area. But very, very importantly, a real focus on investment. We released our FDI plan, our inward investment plan, in October of last year, and I was delighted to launch that very thorough piece of work that identifies Scotland's strengths across 9 subsectors, and I'll talk a bit more about those in a minute, and how we were going to take that offering to international investors, encourage investors that are already here to do more, and encourage inward investors that haven't invested in Scotland to take part in the journey that we're on, which I think is hugely exciting across so many sectors. We're now working very hard to put the finishing touches to our capital investment plan that we plan to launch in the next few weeks. And we really split those two out to look at FDI on the one hand and capital on the other hand, because it's such a broad area and it was very important that we did the work to drill down into enough detail to really understand our focus there. So the capital investment plan will focus on what we need to do to support more business investment into Scotland, what we need to do to support more commercial real estate investment into Scotland, and to support more infrastructure investment into Scotland. And the way we look at this is it's hugely important that those 3 are joined up, because they all come back to what we identified in our inward investment plan, which is around about what is Scotland genuinely globally good at in terms of our technology, and how do we attract investment to come and be part of that strategic journey. And we do see it in very, very strategic terms. The 9 subsectors we identified in our inward investment plan were broadly around three main areas. One was the journey to low carbon, the other was around about digitisation, and the other was around about our advanced manufacturing capability. And we're very conscious that we have some great assets in Scotland, and those were clearly articulated in that plan, but it's about joining them up. It's about taking our world-leading academic research, it's combining that with our excellent businesses we have in Scotland, our development agencies, the direction that government is taking, and so many other parts of the ecosystem, and making sure that they're joined up and coherent, so that when we talk to investors, they understand they're coming into something that's been strategically thought through, is there for the long term, and adds real value to their investment over that time, and acts as a magnet to attract further investment and add to the ongoing value of those assets. So, underpinning all of this, of course, is our commitment to net zero, and all of those sectors talk to that agenda. The Scottish Government is hugely keen to be recognised for the great work we've done in this area, not just in terms of our policy commitments and being one of the first countries in the world to declare the climate emergency, not just in terms of what we've delivered on the ground. We're now at the point where 100% of Scotland's electricity is generated from renewable sources, but also very much in terms of the technology, the business, and our focus in making that work for Scotland's economy, and creating some great investment opportunities as a consequence. I think that net zero, it's important to recognise, underpins so much of our investment opportunities that we position in Scotland. We've taken that to market through our green investment portfolio. We already have £1 billion of investable assets in that portfolio, and the plan is to grow that to £3 billion in the very near future. And that's investments that we've looked at from a government perspective. We've put through our panel. We've verified that they are good investments at the right stage of maturity. We've verified that the business cases for them are solid, and they're in a fit state to take to the investor community globally to position those and work with investors to attract them to come in and take part in these investments. And the way we've configured that, it allows flexibility, it allows investors to also invest in a kind of portfolio opportunity across a range of those investments, taking a slice of each. So we're very conscious to make that as investor friendly as possible. So AMIDS is one of those investments. It's in the green investment portfolio that we've taken to market. It's important to understand it in that broader strategic context that we have in Scotland. So turning to AMIDS itself and how it fits into this overall picture, we have 2 anchor investments there that are being put in place as we speak. One is the National Manufacturing Institute for Scotland, and another is our Medicines Manufacturing Innovation Centre. And significant other work that's happening on the park as well. So it's really going to be a combination of government-backed investment, centres of expertise, hugely aligned with, as I mentioned, our great technological expertise that we have in our university sector, to pull all of that together, working with Scottish SMEs, working with large corporate investors in the advanced manufacturing space, large corporate businesses in the advanced manufacturing space that are already in Scotland, and putting together an opportunity for investors to be part of that journey with us. So it's something that we're hugely excited about. It fits into that overall strategic context within Scotland. We're very clear at what we're good at globally, and in those sectors we are very good when we line up against international comparisons, and the government is very clear about how we pull all of this together to make sure that the investor journey is smooth, and that investors are part of that strategic investment, which has really got the opportunity to grow and prosper as we build those industrial clusters across Scotland, of which AMIDS is one to build our economy for the future. So the other important piece of that, of course, is a skills pipeline. And again, because we're so closely tied to our universities in this space, because our colleges in Scotland are very agile, nimble, and able to respond to those requirements, and because we've got a really joined up strategic focus on that skills pipeline, we're able to ensure that businesses that invest in these parks have the skills that they need. And again, that gives investors comfort that this whole approach has been thought through, it is joined up, all the elements are in place and lined up, and I think that makes it a really attractive and interesting investment proposition for global investors. I'll stop there, Simon, because I really want to give opportunity for anyone to ask any questions that I hope to be able to answer.
Minister, thank you, and it's great to note how well aligned AMIS is to our economic policies. I think just before the webinar we were having a chat, and I think current financial commitment to AMIS exceeds £160 million, which I think is the evidence of just how important it is to Scotland's future economic prosperity. A couple of questions coming through from the floor. First question for you, Minister. Could you explain a little bit about the role of SNIB, the Scottish National Investment Bank, its purpose, and what role it could potentially perform as a potential co-funder to strategically important projects for Scotland?
Yeah, it's a great question, and the Scottish National Investment Bank is a huge part of the ecosystem. It's a commitment that we made in government 2-3 years ago now to put in place the bank, and what it does, it's mission driven, and those core missions are around about the transition to net zero and challenging some of the demographic and other challenges that we have in Scotland. So very much lined up with, as you can see, what's happening at AMIS. So the bank's got the opportunity to be able to co-invest and to support other strategic investments with partners to make that, again, that investment journey more comfortable, if you like. The bank is very interested in cornerstoning investments, so that private sector investors can partner with that and build on top of that, if you like. So I think that makes that process easier and more comfortable. And I know that the bank is very keen to have these conversations with investors to see how we can partner together to take that agenda forward.
Thank you. Another question that's come through from the floor for you, Minister. With COP26 being hosted in Glasgow later this year, what are the government's plans to use that event as a showcase for investment opportunities for Scotland?
Absolutely, it's really, really important. COP26, obviously, we're delighted it's coming to Glasgow, and for the policy reasons I mentioned earlier, I think it will really propel the visibility of Scotland and what we've achieved in the transition to net zero onto the global stage. So we're delighted that's happening, but very much from my perspective and from the government's perspective, it's also a great opportunity, both to showcase Scottish technology, the great businesses we've got, and the cutting edge position they hold across so many of the technologies that are central to net zero, be that in offshore wind, be that in hydrogen, and be that in tidal generation, be that in so many sectors, decarbonisation of transport and many others. So to showcase that, but also very much to showcase these investment opportunities, both into those businesses, and we've got a pipeline of those businesses coming through, but also into infrastructure and real estate opportunities, for example, in AMIS. So joining that up is very important, and the ability to showcase those investments is a key part of that. And of course, AMIS is very close to the site where the COP26 will be held in Glasgow, just a few miles up the river. So it's very well positioned in that regard as well.
Thank you, Minister. We've got more questions than I think that we can field for you, because I know you've got other ministerial business to attend to, and I would also like to move to the rest of the panel members. But thank you very much for your time today. Somebody has asked a question, which an easy one to answer. Yes, this session is being recorded and will be shared afterwards. So, Minister, thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much, Simon. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you. I will now allow the other panel members to introduce themselves. They can please switch their videos on. That would be great. So first of all, turning to you, Barbara, can you just introduce yourself and explain your role in the delivery of AMIS?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Barbara Walker. I work at Renfrewshire Council. I'm the project director for our sort of infrastructure and investment projects, which includes all the enabling infrastructure for AMIDS and AMIDS itself. So when I come to do my talk in a couple of minutes, I'll cover off in more detail what that means.
Thank you, Barbara. We've got two Johns on the panel. So John Arthur, could you please explain your role within AMIDS?
John Arthur, so I'm the director of the MMIC Medicines Manufacturing Innovation Centre, which we're currently building with half the steel work up so far this year.
Thank you. And turning to the other John, John Reid.
Yes, so I'm John Reid. I'm the CEO of the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland. The facility's being built currently in the AMID site, but we're active in 2 other technology sites at the moment. So we are leading a group of facilities that help companies carry out research and development, innovate their new products and processes, and help them take them to market.
Thank you, John. And finally, Mark.
Good morning, I'm Mark Robertson. I'm Managing Partner of Ryden Property Consultants, and I'll say a few words about the property market.
Thank you, Mark. So please keep the questions coming in. We've got a really encouraging response rate. If we don't manage to answer all the questions today, we will issue a written response to them, so they will not go unanswered. I'm going to allow the panel members now in turn just a few minutes each just to have a deeper dive into their respective areas, and then we'll open up the floor for a full Q&A session. So Barbara, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Good morning again, everyone. I'll just cover off AMIDS and from the council's viewpoint, I suppose. So as the Minister highlighted in his introduction, his journey to AMIDS, or including AMIDS, started about 2 years ago. It will not surprise you to know that the council's journey to AMIDS started in 2014 when the Glasgow City Region City deal was signed. So this year, governments, local authorities, businesses, and I suppose every one of us, we're all considering routes out of recovery for COVID. And as a local authority, Renfrewshire is obviously focused on how to support our residents and our many existing businesses. But alongside that, we're also taking forward at pace, this ambitious opportunity to grow our local economy. We believe AMIDS can play a significant role in economic growth and skills development, and also provide an improvement and opportunity for the existing businesses and people in our local communities. So thanks for the invitation to speak today. I'm always keen to raise more awareness of AMIDS and to let our audience hear how they can be part of what I think is an exciting and ambitious opportunity going forwards. I think I've got a slide to come up now, but as you can see from the first slide, hopefully, that AMIDS has unparalleled connectivity. It's located immediately adjacent to Glasgow Airport. It's 15 minutes from Glasgow city centre and 5 minutes from Scotland's 4th busiest train station. And this connectivity will be further strengthened by delivery of a new opening bridge across the River Clyde, which is due to commence in April. And this will directly link the AMIDS site to West Glasgow and West Dumbartonshire, and that will further expand the local labour pool and supply chain for organisations. The Scottish Government have published a mission to use the River Clyde as an economic driver for businesses and communities across the city region and beyond, and it's to drive sustainable inclusive growth. And both AMIDS and the Clyde Bridge project directly meet these ambitions. Education and skills, as the Minister said, is also a key driver for economic development and regeneration. And through this connectivity, AMIDS lies within the catchment area of 6 colleges and 4 universities. It's actually located at the heart of the largest population of skilled labour in Scotland, and it's got a global reach for customers and suppliers. People further afield may not realise that Renfrewshire is already synonymous with manufacturing. It's historically been and remains a key strength of Scotland's economy. And some of the organisations that are already here are listed on one of the slides. So development of AMIDS is not therefore just a local ambition, but it's a national priority project. It will create thousands of jobs and support the local and national manufacturing sector to grow, improving skills and productivity. As the Minister outlined, we've already got full support of the Scottish Government and Scottish Enterprise, who are collaborating with us in delivering this opportunity. The enabling infrastructure for the core site has been funded through the Glasgow City Region City deal, which is the infrastructure fund jointly UK and Scottish Government. You'll hear shortly how all this collaboration and ambition is already coming to fruition when John Arthur talks about the MMIC, and which is focused on improving pharmaceutical manufacturing, and John Reid talks about NMIS, which will transform skills, productivity and innovation, and why both these ambitious and innovative facilities have chosen AMIDS as their location and commenced construction on site, which is an exciting prospect and opportunity for Renfrewshire, but also for the city region and Scotland. The design and master planning of AMIDS started back in 2015. You can see the indicative master plan on the slide there. Construction commenced in 2019 with the 44 million investment in the key enabling infrastructure. This is all public sector investment, and this is to open up the site for development and to prepare the way for businesses to locate. The 52-hectare site is owned by Renfrewshire Council, and it's got a planning in principle consent for development of around about 1.5 million square feet of varying employment classes together with support facilities. This consent is based on a flexible master plan, and we want to develop this in partnership with a JV partner to enable manufacturing businesses to easily locate at AMIDS. Despite some global setbacks in the last year, the enabling infrastructure delivery works have progressed well, with the majority of civils and utilities infrastructure across the site now substantially in place. This initial phase should complete this summer. We're currently addressing a couple of conditions in the planning consent with the planning authority to reduce any risks or perceived risks going forward for our future partner. And so because we've reached the stage that the investment in infrastructure is now well progressed, we're now focused on the next stage of development, which is to go to market to find a JV development partner who will work with us and share our ambitions to develop out the site. So we're currently preparing documentation which we'll issue to market, but alongside that we continue to have direct discussions with interested organisations who see the potential opportunity for their businesses at AMIDS, of course including the attraction and benefit of locating alongside the two innovative anchor tenants, NMIS and MMIC. Both these organisations add additional strength to any business case for locating at AMIDS. The potential to be able to collaborate with them and the other existing businesses already surrounding the district brings increased opportunities for product development, strategic innovation and business growth. So we're already seeing the collaboration of public and private and academic sectors working together to improve business delivery, business opportunities, efficiency, and as a consequence, skilled employment potential. And we anticipate bringing the JV opportunity to market in the second quarter this year. Prior to then, if anyone is interested, we'll be issuing a PIN notice so that we can bring forward the most effective proposition for all parties. So I think my slides have perhaps vanished, but as a local authority, you know, of course, we've got a number of considerations when setting out to create a centre for employment such as AMIDS. We want to encourage new businesses to locate, but also help existing businesses to grow. We want to build on the existing strengths of the business and skills we already have, but we must also include our local residents and consider the environment in which they live now and in the future. So we spent some considerable time meeting with and listening to people in the local communities and stakeholders when we developed our plans for AMIDS. And as we move towards our next phase, it's a good time for us to re-engage and bring alive the exciting opportunities and what that means for them and the area. We're developing AMIDS using a place-based approach, which is common parlance these days, where all aspects of community setting, living, recreation, education and working are entwined. There's much talk currently of the 15 or 20-minute city, and we believe AMIDS creates such a model. So we don't want to just create a new out-of-town development where new businesses can locate. We want more than that. And there's already 3 other existing successful business parks nearby, as well as an international airport and, importantly, education establishments. If we can link all these together with AMIDS and include effective links to our residential communities and new and existing amenities, then we believe this would enhance and create significant opportunities and benefits for everyone involved. In conjunction with the education establishments and our strategic partners, we're also making sure a programme of skills development runs in parallel with the evolving development of AMIDS. This joined up approach will help local people take advantage of the new employment opportunities that arise and ensure new businesses have a pipeline of highly skilled workforce available to meet their needs. We believe people will want to live and work close to the AMIDS site to take advantage of the opportunities it has to offer for them and their children. Lockdown and restrictions of recent months have resulted in a renewed desire for many people to have access to attractive open space. We are constructing a significant high quality public realm areas for informal and formal outdoor collaboration and events. And in the next phase, a riverside park accessible by both local people and workers at the district. We are also currently tendering an innovative district heating network, the first of its kind in Scotland, which will enable individual occupiers and the district as a whole to meet net zero carbon ambitions, another key policy of the Scottish Government. Our ambition then, as all this comes together, is to deliver a strongly linked community where people can live, learn, work and play. Together we will see the social and health standards improve, as well as economic growth. AMIDS is not intended just to be a 9-to-5 location. So I hope that's given a brief insight into AMIDS to get the discussion going. I'm sorry if I went on a bit there, but there's obviously much more detail available for anyone who wants to find out more. The slides have a note of our website address, and I'm happy for anyone to contact me. But in the meantime, I'll hand over back to Simon for the rest of today's programme. And thanks again for the invitation, and of course to everyone for listening.
Barbara, thank you. A lot to cover there. Just a quick question that's come in. What do you see the role of the private sector partner in the delivery of AMIDS?
We are looking for a private sector partner who will be able to work with us and invest in the site and bring forward. We have a lot of interested occupiers already, interested organisations who would like to occupy already, and it's really to help us deliver that ambition for them and for the council and for Scotland.
Thank you. Moving to John Arthur now. John, can you please just highlight the purpose and ambition of the MMIC, how important collaboration with industry is, and this current status of the project and who's involved? Over to you.
Certainly. So the Medicines Manufacturing Innovation Centre, known as MMIC, it's part of the CPI, or Centre for Process Innovation family of facilities, which in turn is part of the High Value Manufacturing Catapult. So what's our purpose? I think this comes back to a recognition that if you look at the UK, over the years, the UK has been brilliant in the R&D space. We've punched well above our weight. However, if we look at the ability to industrialize that and convert it into manufacturing, we've been less good. So the MMIC facility is really set out to help that transition of innovative, transformative technology from the development stages into the industrialization stage. And to do that, we are building a facility next to the airport. It's going to be around 560 square meters of GMP space. The facility is quite a bit bigger than that. It's got warehouses. It looks like a small manufacturing facility. And within that, what we're going to do is run grand challenges. And our task is to drive collaborations between industry, academia, and government agencies, with the idea of trying to identify organizations that have got a solution looking for a problem, with companies who have a problem looking for a solution. To date, we are already running 3 grand challenges. We don't have a facility, so we're running them in the University of Strathclyde, down in Somerset, and another one down in England, in Oxford area. So what we're already doing is driving that collaboration, and that's what we'll continue to do. In terms of where we stand, to date, we've got a significant chunk of funding. We were lucky enough to get a grant from Scottish Enterprise of 15 million. Innovate UK put in initially 13 and then topped that up with an additional 7. So they're now supporting us with 20. Our 2 founding industrial partners have put in 14 million pounds between them, which is GSK and AZ, AstraZeneca. We've got the University of Strathclyde as our academic partner. So we're already well on our way to meeting our funding targets. We've got the facility is already funded. It's currently started being built last year. We've got half the steel work up. If you drive past the airport, it's looking good. I was there on Monday. At the end of the day, when you listen to what the minister said about the inward investment opportunities, low carbon, digital, and advanced manufacturing, we tick all of those boxes, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. So I'm conscious of time. I could go on, but I won't, so I'll pause there.
John, thank you for that, and I'm sure we'll come back with some questions later in the session. If I could actually ask the same questions to John Reid of NMIS, the purpose and ambition of NMIS, how important is collaboration in the remit of NMIS, and current status of the project and next steps. Over to you, John.
Okay, thank you very much. So very briefly, I'll give you an introduction to NMIS, where we are at the moment and what we're focusing on. So the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland is a hugely important asset, and it creates an amazing opportunity for all companies that make things. It's, in my view, one of the biggest and most focused investments that's been made in supporting the growth and development of manufacturing in Scotland, and I think it represents a very practical and real demonstration of the Scottish Government's commitment to try and make Scotland a global leader in advanced manufacturing. The NMIS group itself is a group of industry-led manufacturing research and development facilities that bring together world-leading technical research, industry, and the support of the public sector. And the overall goal is to transform skills, productivity, and innovation in manufacturing organisations in Scotland. Like the MMIC, we're also part of the High Value Manufacturing Catapult Centre network in the UK. We're one of 7 centres, which also means we've got access to huge world-leading technology and research capability all across the UK, covering almost all aspects of advanced manufacturing. Effectively, we would be a gateway into that vast resource. We're also directly supported by University of Strathclyde, which gives us the ability to draw on their resources and expertise and recognise that that is one of the best technical universities in the world. Our goal is very clear. It's one simple thing, and that's really to support the development and growth of sustainable manufacturing in Scotland. Collaboration is critical to, first of all, the creation of NMIS, but also its operation. Working with Scottish Government, University of Strathclyde and the Catapult, as I said earlier on. Those 3 are the biggest contributors, but we also collaborate with the companies and organisations that we work with. We already have 60 members and partner companies that we work with closely. We also work with the Scottish Manufacturing Advisory Service, Skills Development Scotland and other agencies. We're also part of a growing network of innovation centres around Scotland and the UK. In terms of our funding position, the key funding for NMIS comes from Scottish Government. So we've received £75 million from Scottish Government, University of Strathclyde another £10 million, and the Catapult itself a further £12 million. Most of that funding is there to build the centre itself and to equip it with all the state-of-the-art equipment and technology we need to deliver top-class research and innovation. As well as that funding, we also have significant funding that comes through the projects that we run with industry. For example, the latest one recently announced was a £12 million project with Boeing. In terms of our readiness, we have approximately 250 staff at the moment, a combination of experienced industrial leadership, world-class research engineers, specialists and technicians. We also have our specialist technology centres in the form of the Advanced Forming Research Centre and the Lightweight Manufacturing Centre. And of course, the NMIS site itself is under construction as we speak. When it's complete, it will be a truly inspiring world-class 11,500 square metre state-of-the-art centre in the middle of the AMIDS district. Within the centre, there'll be modern, flexible space for work and collaboration for the large companies and small companies that come together with our teams and each other to collaborate and to innovate. There'll be a digital factory showcasing the latest digital technologies, applications and test beds, the Lightweight Manufacturing Centre itself. And in addition to that, the Skills Academy, where we'll be developing the skills of the future workforces with technical modules all the way up to PhD level and knowledge exchange programs. Our offer is to give companies in Scotland and beyond the ability to access the best technology and engineers to de-risk their innovation, their processes and products, and support them to deploy advanced digital capability and help them build competence in sustainable technologies, as well as developing their own workforces. So today, we work with hundreds of companies, including many world leaders like Boeing, Rolls-Royce, Baker Hughes, Siemens, Spirit Aerosystems, and many others. As well as that, we also work with hundreds of SMEs across the country. Our new NMIS building is going to open in the second half of 2022. But in the meantime, we do have our Advanced Forming Research Centre, the Lightweight Manufacturing Centre, and both of those are open and operating as we speak. And we also have very much of the capability of our digital and skills resource already in place. So just closing off my little script, NMIS is developing quickly, but much of the capability that we have is available for business now. Thank you very much.
John, thank you for that. And just worth noting that the two existing collaborative research assets of AFRC and the Lightweighting Centre are both located adjacent to AMIDS. So there is that the kind of clustering effect. So thank you for that. I'd now like to turn the focus of the webinar to just having a look at the property market, the industrial property market in Scotland, with a particular focus on the west of Scotland. I'd like to bring Mark into the conversation. Rydens were also commissioned by Scottish Enterprise a couple of years ago to undertake an audit of the condition and age of the industrial stock in Scotland to help inform the government's response. So Mark, could you maybe just touch upon current state of availability and demand in Scotland and the Greater Glasgow region, and what did the audit of the existing industrial accommodation reveal in terms of age, condition, obsolescence?
Thanks, Simon, and good morning once again, everyone. I'll spend a few minutes just talking through some slides. It's easier to show these graphically than to throw numbers at you verbally. AMIDS has been launched as a serviced campus in a market with a low supply, declining supply of service land and campus land across West Central Scotland and across Scotland. That infrastructure offers a very important part of the competitive context, and obviously sitting alongside both in the investment locations, not the transport nodes and airport that Barbara mentioned. The market context is one of declining long-term industrial property availability in Scotland. The historic availability rate's been around 8 to 10% of stock, so a vacancy rate of around 8 to 10%. As the economy has grown and there's been very little new development, that stock's been taken up. So we now look at Scotland as a whole with a vacancy rate of around 4 to 5%, which is exceptionally low. And a fairly large proportion of that is actually obsolete in terms of modern manufacturing and modern purposes. My industrial colleagues in Glasgow looked just last week at the effective vacancy rate in the Glasgow city region and found it to be 2.8%. So it's not unusual for buildings currently of any quality to attract multiple interests, to go to closing dates, for off-market deals to be done, for companies to have to bespoke build their own premises. So the market is very, very tight. And what sits behind that, as Simon says, what the 95% of the iceberg below the water looks like is this. Scotland's industrial property was built largely by the public sector and largely in the second half of last century. So that's the volumes being built each decade over the past century. With a peak in the 1980s, most of it was built by the Scottish Development Agency, by Newtown Development Corporations, by local authorities, so by the public sector. And the weather front you can see moving across that, the arrows, that's the lifespan of these buildings before they require a significant refurbishment or to be demolished and replaced. So we can see we're now approaching, over the next few years, peak obsolescence in the Scottish market. And against a low development rate, that's why the market's winding ever tighter. And businesses looking for genuinely modern premises for modern manufacturing on service sites will struggle to find those currently. The kind of take-up rates we're looking at of the buildings that we hope to see at AMIDS, 20,000 square feet plus, small to medium. The average take-up rate across Scotland is around 4 million square feet per annum. But as I say, that's got tighter and tighter as supply has become more obsolete. We have seen a bit of a pickup recently, but that's largely service sector driven. So manufacturers looking for decent industrial space in accessible locations and prime sites will be competing against mainly logistics companies, so organisations driven by parcel delivery, online shopping and so on. And that accelerated even further during the pandemic, pushing supply even lower moving forwards. The sort of transactions that the manufacturers are pursuing over the last couple of years, now I've just thrown in a real range here, not necessarily to focus on the highest quality or the highest value that AMIDs might seek to attract, but just to show the spectrum across the country, mainly second-hand buildings, some newer buildings at Eurocentral, rents across a wide range of cost rates there. Generally, the buildings are 50,000 square foot plus. They are pretty large in terms of the floor space requirement for manufacturing purposes. Even very recently, there's been a few to mention that aren't shown in the slides. So NMIS itself, Scottish Gas Networks in Cambuslang, and most recently the Valneva vaccines factory in Livingston. So there's ongoing requirements, and as Barbara mentioned and Simon mentioned, that there's requirements beyond that we're aware of in the marketplace looking for purpose-built and modern manufacturing space. Very often the purpose building and shell specification is because to meet industry 4 requirements or specific process requirements, the manufacturing buildings have to be pretty specialist rather than once again adapting 40 and 50-year-old premises. So summarising, the general market considerations at this point would be that the supply of industrial property in Scotland, and especially in Greater Glasgow, is exceptionally low, and there are serious quality issues with many of the premises that are available. Demand is being driven currently primarily by the service sector using industrial property for storage and logistics, but these market conditions are squeezing availability for manufacturers too. The obsolescence issue is particularly profound for manufacturers. If you look at those 40 and 50-year-old buildings, they're not just physically obsolete in terms of age, but functionally for process, environmentally for legislation, and for the standards required by the companies, and technologically, whether that's for Industry 4.0, process technologies, clean rooms, whatever, the buildings often aren't capable of taking those, so new premises are required. 200 million square feet in Scotland and a fractional new development rate, so an ever tightening market. Public sector support remains critical. Despite market adjustment and private capital, the provision of quality sites and campuses like AMIDs is still limited. There aren't many, and it's a tight market, but this one's being brought forward in a great location with that package of funding that will allow service sites to be made available. And not to forget, finally, that manufacturing is complex. It's a mix of speculative buildings by developers, purpose-built for specialist manufacturing, a mix of rented in some cases and owned. Some manufacturers invest for the very long term and wish to own their premises. So those are some of the investment considerations. Hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour. We can take some more detailed questions at the panel. Thank you.
Mark, thank you for that. And that concludes the panel addresses. So we can move now towards the question and answer aspect of the webinar. Mark, just to question for yourself, can you just explain a little bit about the government's position towards rates on new commercial development and how that places Scotland in a UK context?
Yeah, the Scottish Government's been very supportive of new development through its business growth accelerator relief. If any delegates are especially interested in that, they can follow it through the Scottish Government website and the Renfrewshire's website. And that essentially provides a 12-month non-domestic rates holiday, so no business rates to pay on new old properties, which is important when you factor into an appraisal, especially for developers who might be looking at a void period before they attract an occupier. So it's a very welcome incentive.
Thank you, Mark. Barbara, question for you, and we've got a really encouraging level of questions, so thank you, everybody. could you maybe just highlight what AMIDS is doing in terms of ensuring digital connectivity to the site?
As part of all our enabling infrastructure, we are putting in all the service ducts and the capacity into the whole site. So we're not going around and doing service plots, because we need to know what individual occupiers actually want. So we're putting in the capability and including for digital connectivity in the area, and so that anybody locating has then got an easy access point and the facilities are there for them. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Another question, we're going to try and get through as many of these as possible. I'm going to address this one to John Arthur and then in turn to John Reid. I think this question's come from a potential occupier stating that this particular company is being courted by countries across Europe and America to locate. What makes Scotland stand out from this crowd, and why should that particular company decide to locate in Scotland or at AMIS? So I think we'll make a working assumption that some of the research and excellence going on within MMIC and NMIS would potentially be of interest. What would your elevator pitch to this company be as to what Scotland can offer in terms of a competitive and comparative advantage?
So if I go first, what I would say is that in terms of access to skills, capability, etc., we're at least as good as the rest. So that, does it give us a competitive advantage? Probably not. Where our competitive advantage comes from is our ability to connect across the academics, industry, and with government. It's much easier to get stuff done in that Scottish space in terms of working with Scottish enterprise and the Scottish government. We find, because I work both sides of the border, that you've got a really dynamic response from government up here, and that makes cutting through some of the complexities much easier. So that, I think, is a real competitive advantage.
Thank you. And John Reid?
Yeah, I think John makes a good point. Scotland's a small country, but it's also big enough to actually make quite big decisions and do so rapidly. And it's very well connected. So I think the whole idea of Team Scotland is an attractive opportunity. It's a hugely supportive environment for business coming to Scotland. And I think if you look at the particular context of AMIDS with NMIS and MMIC in place, you're going to come to an environment where your organisation is fully supported from a technology point of view, but also a skills development point of view, which is a huge asset.
Another question from the floor. Address this one to you, Barbara, if you don't mind. I mean, the Minister highlighted that AMIDS is within Scotland's green investment portfolio because of its low carbon attributes and its contribution towards Scotland's 2045 net zero target. Question from the floor about, can you just explain a little bit more about what the energy system is proposed for AMIDS? And, increasingly we're seeing occupiers wishing to reflect, that they're doing their bit for environmental sustainability. What could a company take advantage of should they move to AMIDS in terms of a low carbon energy solution?
Yes, absolutely. We're trying to put in infrastructure and as much as we can to what we would like is for the whole site to be zero carbon, but obviously that's not just the council and the public sector, it also needs to be the individual occupiers. So as far as the district heating, we're out to tender at the moment for the design, construction, operation and maintenance of and it's an innovative solution for on-site generation for the district heating for AMIDS that all the occupiers at AMIDS can connect into. And what we're doing is using wastewater from nearby wastewater treatment works, and this gets kind of piped by insulated pipes to the AMIDS site, and then obviously gets upgraded at the buildings. And NMIS and MMIC, we've already signed heads of terms, so they're the first off takers for this this district heating network. And then as others come on board, the network can be expanded. And we believe that it's the first fifth generation heat network in Scotland. So that that kind of it works really well with the being an innovation district with an innovative heating solution. But we're not just looking at the district heating for low carbon, we're also promoting sustainable transport options and travel options, which will sit as an umbrella over all the individual travel plans. And we're looking as far as we can to facilitate sustainable travel. We've put in cycle routes, we're putting in easy walking from the nearby. We're improving all the accesses for walking and cycling, and we're also putting other cycle links in up to Shannon where AFRC is, and to other areas round about, and trying to link it all up. And of course, longer term, there's a vision for a Glasgow City Metro, and we would obviously support that. And we're still kind of fingers crossed that the first line of that will be out to pass through the AMID site and provide additional low carbon solutions there too. So I think there's a lot going on, and we're looking at all opportunities as they come on board and as the site's built out, and we'll work with the occupiers to see if there's any more we can do.
Thank you. And I'm going to address another question to you, Barbara, because obviously as project sponsor, there's great interest in your viewpoint. Can you please explain what you mean, or how the flexible master plan and how you would see AMIDs being developed?
Yes, well, the master plan, we have in place a master plan which we prepared that in conjunction with obviously master planners in order to get our planning in principle for the whole site, which should make it easier for occupiers to go through the planning process. Now it's flexible in that we've obviously got NMIS and MMIC are already on site now, and we'll update it as we go along. But we're not restricted to the sort of layout on the master plan. Depends what the occupiers want and how they want to take that forward. I've seen a couple of the Q&A questions as well about how would we deal with speculative builds or bespoke builds or appointing architects, and that'll all be done in conjunction with our JV partner. And we would hope to be flexible in that, depending on what the company's needs were or the occupier's needs were, and we could be flexible in how it was approached as to whether it was a bespoke building for them, or whether there was something built speculatively, or and so we're hoping that'll all be flexible. So we've put in all the main roads, and we haven't put in all the side roads that are shown in the master plan, because again it will really depend on the layout of what the occupiers want. So we're hoping that we can really reflect their needs and then work the master plan around that. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. Address the next question to Mark. Mark, AMIDs is directly adjacent to Glasgow International Airport. Does that give it an increased investment attractiveness, in your opinion?
That's a fairly easy question, Simon. Yes, it does. It's close to the city itself and to wider million-plus population base that Glasgow City region has, and it's also got that airport proximity and close access, either for businesses that are related to aviation or for businesses that would use the airport either for business travel or for cargo. So it's a bonus, yeah.
Thank you, Mark. I'm going to move to closing remarks, and just before we do that, we're going to close the session with the CGI fly-through of AMIDs to try and bring it more to life. So please stay for that at the very end. So really, a question to all of our panel members is, why should an investor consider AMIDs? Barbara.
Well, I'll not go over everything that I said at the start, because I did go on quite a bit, but really because it's going to be a great place to live and work. It's going to have access to skills. It's got great connectivity. We've also quite clearly got NMIS and MMIC, which is a huge bonus for the site and for any occupier coming to locate there, and obviously the airport as well. It's all these things. There's just a whole range of things, and it's going to be a great site, a healthy workplace, and a healthy environment to live and work.
Thank you. Next, same question to you, Mark.
In property market terms, you've seen the supply-demand picture. It's a scarce opportunity.
Thank you. And I'll slightly change the slant of that question to the other panel members. Why should a company engaged in manufacturing consider locating at AMIDS? John Reid.
I think the pitch I would make is that our ambition and our drive is to create a community of like-minded companies, a cluster of companies around the AMIDS site. So when you come to AMIDS, you'll be alongside lots of other organisations and companies that you can work in a collaborative way. You'll be alongside some of your supply chain companies potentially, and you'll have the technical and skill support of centres like the National Manufacturing Institute Scotland and the MMIC. So I think it offers a unique opportunity to come to AMIDS. You can develop your products, your processes, and your people.
Thank you. And John Arthur? You're on mute, John.
Good spot.
You managed to get nearly through the whole session.
I know, it was bound to be me. I think what we've got is we will have a critical mass of capability. And I think not only will we have a critical mass of capability in the AMIDS Park, that critical mass of capabilities has access across the rest of the high value manufacturing catapult space internationally, globally. So we know who to talk to if we can't find it locally. So that's one thing. I've mentioned that we're well connected with government agencies, both in the wider in the UK through Innovate and particularly in Scotland. But more important than all of that is you've got a whole group of people who are absolutely up there for growing the manufacturing sector. So we've all got a common goal, a common interest. And I think that's quite unique when I come and look at some of the tech centres.
Thank you, John. So on behalf of SDI, Minister McKee and the panel members, thank you very much for listening to this morning's session. We hope you found it of interest. And SDI will be hosting a 2-day programme of events in early March as part of the run-up to COP26. So we'll be sending details of those in due course. And all that remains now is for us to move to the CGI fly-through of AMIDS. Thank you again.